I want to make a motion to approve the regular town board meeting minutes held on May 22nd, 2019.
Second. Any board comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Passed unanimously. Thank you.
Make a motion to approve abstract number 22, dated May 19th, dated May 29th, 2019. Abstract number 23, dated June 5th, 2019. And abstract number 24, dated June 12th, 2019, as presented.
Second.
Any board comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Passed unanimously. Thank you.
No budget mods.
No budget mods tonight. Tonight we're going to have a public hearing to consider a zone change from agricultural to R12 as residential one family, and R12 residential one family to RM residential two family for the property located at 8681 Weaver Road, tax map, boy I can't talk tonight, sorry guys, tax map number 097-01-05.1. This zone change was recommended and approved by our planning board. So I approved the publication and posting. I will open the public hearing now. Steve Procopio, before we start the public hearing, would you like to talk to us just a little bit about what we're doing with this zone change?
So this is an existing parcel on Weaver Road.
That concludes the public hearing. So anyway, Steve, I'm sorry, we just lost our audience.
Oh, yeah.
Hello? Good, we're on.
Good.
Sorry, everyone, for your jumps. Wow. I know, I'm sorry.
Okay. So this parcel is an existing approximately 1.5 acre parcel on Weaver Road. It's mostly zoned agricultural, has some R12 zoning on it. Also, adjacent to the Johns Landing subdivision. The proposal is to change the zoning to RM, potential future use of two-family dwellings.
And there was a recommended and approved by the planning board. Is the person who asked for the zone change here tonight?
Yep.
Welcome.
Good evening.
Yep. We're gonna share.
We're going to switch my, there you go.
Test. All right. Good evening, Tim Coyer, I-Jews and Romans Land Surveyors. I'm the surveyor for the applicant, Mr. Grosso. As Steve pointed out, we are looking to zone change this agricultural property to RM to allow for two-unit townhouse residential units. We may or may not subdivide the property at that time, but we're looking to put the 2 units. And that was part of the caveat with the planning board with their quote-unquote approval. We made sure we were only going to do the 2 buildings, a total of 4 units. We would agree to that. We don't want to do any more. We're not doing apartments. These are townhouse units only. These are nice residential townhouse units, very similar to the ones that you have at Joseph's Landing, the Pastures, and a couple other residential neighborhoods around the Cicero area. I have examples, Google Earth images of these exact units being right next to single-family residential units throughout the town. Do you have any questions for me?
I have no questions. Any board members? There being none, I'll open the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak either in favor or against the zone change? There being none, I will close the public hearing.
Wait.
Oh, do we have one?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, please come up. I'm a Ford guy, by the way.
Oh,
Thank you.
sorry. My name is Doug Luke, I live at 8730 Weaver Road. I built my house 41 years ago there. And back in 1978, I came in, I wanted to build a two-family house. I talked to Mark Ladd, I believe, at the time. And he said, nope, that's all single family, and that's all we're gonna have there. I understood it wasn't a big deal. I built the house, but not a two-family. 1985, I put an outbuilding up, and I talked to Mr. Sykes, and he told me that everything was approved, but that nobody could live in it, and I couldn't have a business in it. He says it's a residential neighborhood, there's only gonna be single-family houses. It's, the property, my property currently sits completely within the floodplain, which it didn't when I bought the property originally. This particular piece of property, I looked it up online, it sits completely inside the floodplain. What I'm concerned about is that, I understand it's spot zoning, I guess that's what we're doing, changing it. I'm wondering, because my property sits completely in the floodplain, it makes it very hard to sell, almost impossible to sell, because of the flood insurance you have to have on it. I believe Mr. Grosso is a smart businessman. He can rent these things out, but he can't sell them. He has the wherewithal to own them and not have to have flood insurance on it. I can't sell my place because I have to have flood insurance, but people would have to have flood insurance on it. So I guess what I'm wondering is, and I know you can't tell me this now, in the future, if I decide to change mine over to a two-family and my outbuilding into a couple of apartments, would I be treated the same way?
Well, I can't speak for what's going to happen in the future.
I
And
understand.
I can't speak for what's going to happen in the past.
And I'm over an acre and I want to be agricultural, very, very similar situation.
I can say this,
And if you look at the flood map, I'm completely inside the floodplain.
yeah, when FEMA redid the flood maps a few years ago, unfortunately, there's large portions of the town of Cicero that are now in floodplains.
Yeah.
It affected my house as well. You know, I don't know, I mean, you know, life changes, the town changes, we're growing. You have to face the realities of today. I can't speak for Mr. Sykes or the people in the past.
I understand.
I can't speak for who's going to come after me. I'm done this year. You know, I would hope that you would be treated fairly. I would suspect that knowing what I know about the folks here in the town of Cicero, you will be treated fairly. But,
There's no guarantee.
well, there's no guarantees in life at all.
And I'm getting a little bit just curious. I mean, you can see the creek, the lines of the creek. A lot of the property is in the creek and out on the other side of the creek. And I'm wondering, and it's really none of my business,
Yeah.
if there's going to be sellers on these places, they're going to have issues, because I have issues. And I'm sure he's taking that into consideration.
Everything.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Yeah, there you go.
Hi. My concern is, we live in we bought our homes in residential districts. And it's a very nice place, it's still rental property. We rent, and it's a statistic rental property, and then he sells this nice little place to somebody else, and they don't live here. And it's just not gonna be the same.
Let me ask you a question. How do we know it's rental property? First of all, there's no plans on the deck.
Well, if you have a two-family home, somebody's.
Well, there's condos that are two-family as well, and people own them.
Yeah, well, is he selling these, or is he renting?
He hasn't even put a site plan together to build them yet, has he? Has he come in for permits to build anything?
No.
Yeah, so we,
So I guess I can ask, is this gonna be rental property? Rental property
There's a
or?
good chance that it will be rented. yes.
Okay, there you go, rental property. So I guess, and then on Button Road, that gentleman was told no for rental property, and I have an empty lot near me that somebody's having a hard time selling. So what goes on there is gonna reflect on the rest of us. We live in a residential area
I understand.
for a reason. And that's because if we wanted to live in apartments, we would live in apartments. If we wanted to live in rental areas, we live in rental areas.
but there's no, and Mr. Coyer's there, and I gotta ask this question, because I'm sorry I'm not on the planning board. So, we don't know. We know it's going to be two-family, but we don't know it's rental, but the other gentleman says there's a good chance it could be rental. But that could be denied.
That's why I'm asking.
It cannot be denied.
No.
Very good chance this is going to be rental properties. I guess my question is.
I'm sorry, I can't hear him.
You speak in the microphone.
Sorry. There's a very good chance these are going to be rental properties. I guess my argument to that is, if he builds single-family houses, can't he rent the houses out? I mean, I'm sure there are houses up and down in this area that are being rented by people. And personally, I've rented these exact units myself. I kind of question what's the big deal? Are you saying that I'm not good enough to live next to?
I'm not saying anything.
I'm just saying I've rented these units for 5 years prior to having kids. Same exact units. Right next to single-family properties. These are going to be upscale buildings. They're not going to be poorly built. They're going to be higher construction. The rents are probably going to be as much or more than the mortgages around here.
Okay, thank you.
So my question is, when you sell these properties 3, 4, 5 years down the road, and you can't get those rents, or somebody else can't get those high-end rents, who's going to move into them? I mean,
It's the same thing like any other house you're gonna sell. It's the same exact thing. There's no
yes,
difference.
but I think the statistics show that there's more rental
I
property
think you need
issues
to
than there
check
are
your statistics
home
on,
issues.
you need to check your statistics on Weaver Road.
Okay, Mrs., yeah, you need to address the board. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
There was just questions in here. But yeah, I guess that's my whole issue, that we live in a residential area, and there's been so many people in front of the board for this situation before, with all the apartments going in, that they just don't want them in the residential areas and commercial property. That's my main concern.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Clark Pomeroy. I live at 8630 Osborne, which would be directly behind us. I'm kind of curious to know whether or not the surveys of the adjacent property, mine and my neighbors, are going to be honored. And based on the events that were happening today with the clearing, and the person who's already clearing, so I'm assuming most of this is a done deal. Apparently it's been decided by someone, which is
Well,
the boundary.
let me just say this to you, okay? I can't, there's two separate entities here. There's a town board, and there's a planning board. Planning board is a separate entity. Its own attorney, its own engineer. They are governed by a set of rules. So I have to assume that when the planning board says we approve of any change, that it has been vetted. It has been vetted by the attorney, it's been vetted by the engineers. If there had to be a environmental study or a traffic study, all of those things have been done. So I think the specific questions that you're asking, with all due respect to you, sir, should have been asked at the planning board hearing when this was discussed there. They passed it on to us with a recommendation that they have vetted this and that they are recommending to the board that we go ahead and approve the zone change.
I'm saying to you, based on what happened on that property today, this afternoon, they have determined where the boundary is based on the stream that runs through it, rather than the survey.
I can't answer the question, I don't know. I don't know I don't know. I mean, they look at property lines, they look at setbacks, I know that they look at all those things. Judy, as a matter of fact, Councilor Boyke is here, and she attended that because she's the liaison to the planning board. Can you shed any light on the decision there, Councilor Boyke?
At the discussion of the planning board did discuss only, and they were corrected by the attorney, that they were discussing whether or not to pass along to the town board to determine whether or not a zone change would happen from the agriculture in R12 to the proposed, what the applicant was asking for was residential multifamily. That was all. They just passed, they voted to pass it to us to discuss and obviously have a public hearing on it. From my understanding, there wasn't a public hearing in regards to it. It was just a discussion, and Mr. Snyder is here from the planning board as well. And it was only a recommendation to the town board to discuss and have a public hearing in regards to whether or not a zone change would be made. I was not aware that it was being filled until today. I got a phone call myself. Can I ask Steve, are you aware that they were bringing fill into
So I
there?
learned Monday that some material was put there over the weekend. I went when it was already spread. It wasn't a great deal of material. I've spoken to the property owner. He's aware now that if anything there's more material, we can get a full permit. I was also notified by a neighbor that they were beginning to clear the land. They were just really clearing it of the brush.
Understand, which is legal.
Right. I spoke with the property owner. He had intended to do that even before making the application for this
Right.
zone change. So the area that I saw today is clearly within the boundaries, in the front where I saw the pyramid, would be clearly in the boundaries of these property lines. One of the neighbors was concerned that they were encroaching, and I mentioned to them, make sure you're within your property line, if you disturb anybody else's property. I'm pretty sure they're experienced developers, I'm pretty sure they're aware of it.
Understand. The other part of that was the discussion in regards to the DEC and filling and all of that as far as permits to go ahead and do that when there are wetlands that are apart and the creek.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any DEC wetlands. The creek is a federal wetland, and they were also advised, look at, don't really, you're gonna need some erosion control along the creek now that you've disturbed that, and then certainly moving forward, any necessary permits that they're they'll have to take.
Correct. But again, it's a recommendation, that was what the vote was, a recommendation to pass along whether or not a zone change will be made from R12 and agricultural to RM. That was the only thing they voted on.
Okay, I'd like to say one more thing then. If you think the only dumping that's been done on that property is done this weekend, you're gravely
So
mistaken.
again, I
There's
only
been
knew
dumping
what
going on
was
there
brought
for
forward to me.
years. I have lived behind there for 15 years.
Understand?
Okay,
So
we'll
I
take a look.
guess what I'm saying is, I'm asking you then, based on what I know and what's going on there right now, for you to do now.
Fair enough, we'll look at it. Anyone else?
Ray Shader. For 2 years now, you've been rezoning up and down Route 11, Lake Shore Road, because we're gonna do away with spot zoning. Now, all of a sudden, on Weaver Road, you're gonna spot zone. And I think that's what it is. And then before, every house had to be on a 10,000 square foot, an R10. Now you're gonna build a duplex, which is 2 houses on an R12. So I think this is all wrong. And you're just going right back to what you said you didn't want to do
No.
for 2 years.
Let me just correct you, Mr. Shader. The town of Cicero is growing, and we are still zoning, going through the zoning, rezoning process to correct zoning that was improperly zoned in the past, or whatever. But there are certain instances where people want to enjoy their property, where they want to build a home, where they want to build a business, where they want to put an expansion on their business. And if we said, no, you have to wait until we get to that section of town to rezone it, not a lot of people would want to do business with us. So we take it by a case-by-case basis, but the rezoning is still moving forward.
So you're still going to spot zone. If he wants to build 4 homes, fine,
Well, it has to be approved by the planning board.
yeah. I think the planning board was wrong, and they should do it correctly.
I don't think they've done it. They don't have a site plan.
It's up to you people, yeah.
It's up to
And
you.
you people should do it correctly.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Carol Compton. I live on Weaver Road, next door to the property that we're discussing. My concern is the drainage, the water drainage over that way. We've been at that house for over 30-some years. And when we first moved in, we had a little bit of flooding in the back, but it wasn't excessive. Then along came the builders and they put the housing tract behind us. They brought in fill, raised it 4 to 5 feet above the creek level. So now the water runs from their side to the creek and into our yard.
Yeah.
And now the front is the same problem. With the water is backing up on our property now from Joe's parcel. And if they start filling, which they have, and the drainage isn't addressed,
Yeah.
we're gonna be really in
Yeah.
trouble.
Yeah, we, a couple things, just so you know, we started 4 years ago, Steve, I think it was 4 years ago. We now require, there's a new requirement for building in the town of Cicero if one is going to dump dirt or change the topography of the property that they're on substantially. So now we require what we call a cut and fill permit, okay? So if someone is going to dump fill, or they're going to fill in a lot, then they have to obtain a permit if it's going to be over 10 yards, I think, right, Steve?
That's right.
Over 10 yards of fill requires a permit, and they have to pay for that permit. Well, two things happen. First thing is our code enforcement officer goes out and looks at the property. And then he verifies, or she verifies, that the proper amount of fill has been dumped, and that it's not going to adversely affect the drainage of the adjoining properties. Correct, Steve?
Yes.
Right. So what happened to your property years ago, I'm sorry for, but this administration changed that. We addressed that.
Well, I think this happened many years ago when they
Right.
put those houses in. We wrote a letter to the town and never got a response.
Well, I can't speak for the people who were here before, but if you write me or write this board, you will get a response.
I'd like to show you some of the pictures of the flooding in our front yard that's backing up on our property.
Here's what I would suggest to move the meeting along. We also instituted what we call a drainage complaint form. We had no, please. No, I'm very serious. What happened is prior to us, there were times when people would call in complaints or whatever, and they would get misplaced or lost, or they wouldn't get addressed. So what we did is we set up a way to make sure that every single complaint is addressed by our drainage committee and by our town engineer. So you're just telling us tonight about this problem that's gone on for years and years and years. I have not heard from it. So in the interest of moving the meeting along, if you please see Steve, we'll get you a drainage complaint form, fill it out, and I assure you that Steve, our town engineer, and the rest of the folks on the drainage committee, Mr. Conway is a member of that committee as well. We will visit your property and they will make recommendations as to how we can fix it, help you. Fair enough?
Fair enough. Now I have another concern. The town has over time approved multiple construction projects, increased apartments or townhouses off Lakeshore Road, Stroh's Marina. They're gonna put in 285 apartments in there. Down by the Lakeshore Yacht Club, they're gonna put another expansion of housing down there.
It hasn't been approved.
And
Yep.
it's just continually building, but yet you're not addressing the traffic issue in town, Lakeshore.
Let me correct you. No, please finish and I'll correct you.
I'm done.
Okay, we have, first of all, we go through the process, and I don't want to belabor the meeting. But every project that is approved goes through an approval process with the town, with the planning board. I can tell you that one project was vetted, and they had what they call a comprehensive review, and that included the Army Corps of Engineer, Onondaga County Department of Transportation, New York State DOT was in on that meeting because I sat, they were there. So we vet, these projects are vetted. Second thing, we know that we have a project, or we have a traffic issue in the town of Cicero, right? I recognize that early on. Two things that are happening. Number one, I have met many times face-to-face with Dave Smith, who's the regional zone manager of New York State DOT. We've had very productive discussions. He knows, where we are with this. Route 11, Route 31, Route 81, that whole corridor has been a disaster. We inherited that disaster, okay? And he has assured me that New York State DOT will be looking at that and say they're gonna fix it, because it costs money. But they said it is on the docket, and it is. I'm gonna hold them to that, I told them. That they will look at that in 2021. They'll have a full-blown study and make recommendations to the state on how they're gonna fix the traffic problem, okay? The second thing, multiple times, they are doing, as we speak, a traffic study on the entire Route 11 corridor, because we know we're jammed up here, right? So they're looking at everything from future growth, future planning. They are talking about a possible access road that will run parallel to Route 81. That's in the drawing stages. So they are addressing it. Unfortunately, here's what happens. I came, retired from UPS, moving at the speed of business. What I've learned since you've elected me is when you work with government and municipalities, getting them to move at all sometimes is a huge win, right? But they have committed that they are going to, both state DOT and county DOT is doing the traffic study, as we got it from SMTC as I speak. They are not done with their study, they are not done with their recommendations, but they have committed that they are going to address it. It's a serious problem. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Very well. Anyone else? Mr. Snyder.
Don Snyder, I'm speaking as a member of the community, not as a planning board member. Have we in fact given notification to the people on Weaver Road about what we are doing? Did anyone get cards to come to a public hearing?
One.
Just this one.
One? How many
One
people
person
live
is
on
here.
Weaver Road?
I didn't get one.
I mean, I'm concerned that
Two got them, three got them.
No, we did not give one.
No.
We did live on
Okay.
Weaver, but we did
All
not
right.
get a card.
we
They
did
never
not
got
get any notification.
No.
Okay.
This is the concern that I have, and this is why I think we need to hold this, we need to set this aside, and you're gonna find out because of that. I'm one of the guys, I'm the one guy that voted no, because we don't, as part of the planning committee, in a recommendation for a zone change, we don't have public hearings. All we're asked to do is look at it, see if it makes sense. Our committee, our group, as a, voted, yes, this was okay. I don't happen to agree with that, but the thing that I think we're seeing is that we have not done due diligence, meaning.
I'm not going to say that. No, I'm going to stop you right there. And you know I have the utmost respect for you, Don. We are not required by law to do any more than publish it. We are not required to send out, and we do in many cases, we do. But we are not required by law to do that, so please don't.
Doesn't matter. The law, there's times, Mr. Supervisor, where the law is not what we're about a community, we're about a family, we're about letting people know what's going on next door. And we didn't tell people what's going on next door. These are going to be rental facilities, and rental facilities as a overall general rule quite often do not get taken care of like it was a property that I own. If these were going to be two-family buildings like we built on these other roads, and they're owned by the owner owns their hand, I have no problem with that thing. I have a problem with it right now that you're hearing from the community that live in it, that they weren't notified, and only if somebody, maybe Ms. Carroll, who's our publicist, let a couple people know, so that's why they're here. But I think we need to just set this thing aside until the next time, give people notice to do it, and have a public hearing that has all the public involved.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, there being none, I'm sorry. Will you please come up into the microphone?
It may not be the law that you have to tell these people what's going on. It's called common courtesy. And this board and former boards lack common courtesy on a regular basis.
Thank you very much. I don't agree with you. Anyone else?
What can I say?
There, Mr. Coyer.
Just want to, again, point out that this is not going to be a big project. This is 2 buildings, and they're going to have 2 units in them. As far as rental properties, yes, if they're rental properties, rental properties. I don't see the difference between someone renting and owning. I mean, I rented for years and took care of the property. That's the way the economy is going. More and more young professionals and older adults want to rent instead of own their properties. I know many of my friends, and they all rent. They don't want to own a single-family house. I know my parents, they want to rent now. They sell their house, and they want to rent now. This is what everybody wants to do, is rent one of these townhouse units. As far as dividing them up, we could, in theory, divide them up into 4 separate tax parcels, put just like the other townhouse units around the town. It doesn't change the fact that he could own each individual tax parcel and rent it out. It's just like another single-family property. I can own it and I can rent it out. I guess my argument is against the whole rental community being downcast. I just don't get that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coyer. Anyone else? Then I will close the public hearing. I have some questions about this. Normally, I got to tell you, we have a great planning board. Mr. Snyder is a part of that planning board. But some questions have been brought that I would like some answers to. So until I get those answers, I would ask the board if we put this vote off to the next meeting. That'll give us a couple weeks to take a look at, I want to talk to some folks on the planning board. I want to ask some more questions. Any objections to that?
No objections, in fact, I concur.
No? Okay. There being none, then there will be no vote tonight. Thank you. And Ms. Castleman, if you would put us on, or actually we'll put it on the next agenda. We now are going to set the public hearings. John, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Move the adoption of resolution to set a public hearing for Wednesday, June 26, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. to consider an amendment to Chapter 198 of the Town Code relating to relating to parking regulations for town parks.
Second. Any board discussion? John, you want to talk to us a little bit about it?
Ms. Rogers, our Director of Parks and Recreation, has brought to the board's attention we have a problem with parking, overnight parking, primarily commercial vehicles in the town parks. Currently, there is no applicable regulation that would allow us to tell people that they cannot park overnight in the town parks. So what we're going to be looking at is prohibiting, at the minimum, prohibiting parking between certain hours in the town parks, prohibiting the use of trailers, I believe, the town parks, and some other assorted regulations. Also, quite frankly, looking at the fines associated with it, one of my concerns is that right now the park fine for no parking, or for parking violation, town Cicero is $10. And if someone parks after 10 o'clock in November in front of their street when it's prohibited because of snow plowing, the $10 might be an appropriate fine, kind of a slap on the wrist. But if you're talking about commercial people who are parking commercial vehicles, you might be willing to take a $10 fine once or twice a week, because that way they've got something to put the commercial vehicle. So the current fines for no parking might need to be adjusted in one way or another. We'll look at how to do that. So that's what this is about.
Thank you, Jim. Any further board comments or questions? Okay, there being none. I'm sorry?
Just a quick question. Would this include the possibility, because we have like the Burton Riverside Park, that we have no signs down there in regards to all other parks are closed after dark? We don't have anything indicating at that park. Is that not true? And we have since had a few incidents in the last week where I believe that we need to address that, and I believe that should be part of this.
Is this a parking issue specifically, or people?
Well, it's just hanging out.
Okay.
And where the park, it needs to be posted that it's closed, so that we as a town and our officers can remove the incident that's happening there.
I have a question, Councilor Boyke.
Yes.
That area there, we put a lot of attention, in that park. Do we not want people to be able to go there and fish after dark? I mean, the fishing is usually better after dark, right? We just don't want people causing problems or parking trailers or that type of thing on our property.
I believe that it's more than fishing, and I feel that it outweighs every other park is posted.
We
Okay.
have a park pass that allows people to fish after dark that they have to put on their dash. So if that's something that someone is interested in, they can come to our
So we
office.
need to
But
institute that
we've
as
been
well.
dealing with the police department on issues up there, and yes, we will be posting the hours, half an hour before sunrise, half an hour after sunset.
And the
They will
park
get
will be
posted
closed.
Okay.
this week.
Good.
All right.
That's already in the local law.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so it just needs to be posted then, this is something we're going to do. Thank you.
All right, okay, any further board discussion? Good comments. There being none, did we get a second?
We did.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We pass unanimously.
Move the adoption resolution to set a public hearing for Wednesday, June 26, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. to consider an amendment to Chapter 185 of the Town Code relating to streetlights and the subdivision process.
Second.
Any board comments?
Yes, so right now, I just encountered this with a constituent contacted me. If you buy a house or build a house in a new subdivision, this one's on Cobalt, which is off Alizarin, and you don't have streetlights, the developer doesn't put them in. And what you have to do is actually get a petition and go around door to door. The fact that the developer doesn't put it in has led to situations like we had in Gulfstream, where people were in a lighting district for years and paid taxes for streetlights for years and did not have streetlights. So after discussing this with several people, including Mr. Procopio, Mr. Marzullo, who's the chair of the planning board, and our town attorney, we're going to look at requiring the developer, when they do the subdivision process, to coordinate with the town and with National Grid to put the streetlights in. And the question then becomes, who pays for them? Well, the developer pays for them. They're going to have a bunch of lots, and they're going to pay the tax on it as if they own a single-family home. And I think they can afford it. And honestly, it's probably a cost they're going to pass on to the home buyer anyway. But that way, you don't build yourself a beautiful home in the town of Cicero, and then have to wait until, because it's not only you have to go door to door, you also have to wait until a certain percentage of lots in your area have been filled. So if you get in there and you build your beautiful new home and only 20% of the lots have houses on them, and you have children and you like streetlights, you can't have them because you have to wait. So this would require the developer to do it. The streetlights will already be in when people move in, and it will make it a lot smoother and frankly, I think a lot safer. We've done a lot of talking about streetlights here in the last couple of years. There's been a lot of petitions, and it really is a public safety issue, I think.
Agreed.
Any further comments? There being none, we had a second?
Yeah, we did.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? We pass unanimously. Thank you. Now we'll go on to the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, New York State, or NYSDEC, MS4 State Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, or SPEEDIES Permit Annual Report. And that report will be given by none other than the illustrious Catherine Friello.
Well, I'm really just giving a summary.
Oh.
Okay, so the town is required by the New York State DEC to comply with the SPEEDIES MS4 permit program. And a part of that program requires an annual report to be submitted to the DEC. That report will be available in the town's clerk's office tomorrow and on the town website. And basically it just covers the 6 minimum measures that are required that the town has to take part in for the year to meet the MS4 permit.
Right, so this is housekeeping for us. Any comments from the board?
No.
There being none, did we get a second?
Are we moving?
We are, we're going to go to a motion. Okay. Then, in accordance with the requirements of the New York State SPEEDIES General Permit for Stormwater Discharge from Small Municipal Separate Storm Sewer Systems, MS4s, a copy of the Stormwater Management Program Annual Report is available in Town Clerk's office for review and comment. Written comments on the report can be submitted to the Town Clerk. I will make a motion to approve. We had a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We pass unanimously again. Thank you. I'll move for the adoption of a resolution to approve the lighting proposal to install one additional street light on Gillette Road near the South Bay intersection provided by National Grid. The light will be included within the overhead lighting district with an estimated annual cost of $96.39. SL 51824-305.
Second.
That streetlight request was from a resident. And, anytime safety again is paramount and has been with us, so it was something we could do, and there it is. Any other comments? All those in favor, please say, did we get a second? I'm sorry.
I seconded it.
Thank you, John. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We pass unanimously. Thank you. God bless you. Judy?
Move for the adoption of a resolution pursuant to Article 6 of the Public Officers Section 87B, I'm sorry, my eyes are bad. My eyes are bad tonight. Appointing Nicole Walsh to act as the Records an access officer per Freedom of Information Law.
Second. Any board comment?
I have a question were we replacing, because my understanding is we could have multiple records access officers, so is this also replacing Ms. Cosman, or is Ms. Walsh being added in addition to?
Ms. Walsh will be the Freedom of Information Officer.
Okay, so Mr. Jermaine, should the resolution be written differently because we are not adding one, we're replacing?
Let's see, pursuant, appointing, we're appointing her to act as
We can have more than,
records officer.
well, we can have more than one, so it seems to me if we're adding and not subtracting, then we'll have two. Right?
How do we, I don't.
What do you want to do?
Which be replacing, Nicole Walsh replacing Tracy Cosman?
It's fine with me.
Okay.
It's up to the board what you want to do on it.
I have a-
That's the intent, right, Mr.?
Yes.
Okay, all
I
right.
have a question, that because this is the original part of the clerk's position, that is this a permanent position move, or is it temporary, or what is it?
As far as I'm concerned, it's permanent, but when I'm gone, maybe another board or supervisor will make a different decision. But this, as far as I'm concerned, as long as I'm here, it's permanent.
Well, this is a point we make in the organization meeting every year, right?
Exactly.
Right, so, right.
It doesn't have to be the clerk, it could be anybody you want.
Right.
Right, but is the norm, I'm sorry, the norm, it was always the clerk, correct?
I believe so.
That's who we
Well, as long
But
as,
it doesn't have to be the clerk.
I understand, I'm just trying to clarify.
And Ms. Cosman, are you okay with this?
Yes, currently the foils are voluminous and time-consuming, and this is just a work management decision.
We're going to balance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Jody, I'm sorry, what is your position in this?
I am the appeals.
Appeals office, and which will remain the same, correct?
Yes.
Sure.
Don't seem too excited, Ms. Rogers.
Yes. That's an affirmative, yes.
Thank you very much.
Any other board comments?
So we're going to vote on it as amended by replacing Ms. Cosman. Do we need to read it again, Mr. Jermaine, or is that sufficient? Okay, thank you.
So,
We did get a second, Ms. Boyke?
yes.
Right, I second.
Second, yeah.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We pass unanimously. Again, thank you.
Mr. Supervisor, I think the Boy Scouts are ready to go home.
Oh, you guys ready?
Yeah.
No, please stay. It's going to get even better. I promise you, the meeting will even get better.
Good call, Ms. Boyke.
All right, okay. Come on up. You guys got some stuff to sign. If you have any council can sign.
I'll do it. Bring it right over here, since I'd like to go home.
That's it? You're signing for the whole group? I have a blank check if you want to sign that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's a Boy Scout.
There you go. Thank you.
Quick, leave while you can, guys.
All right, guys, yeah, get out. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
He was a joker, that's what you know.
You want to see the cafeteria or the auditorium clear out even faster? Just announce that there's food in the cafeteria. Go ahead. Councilor Conley.
Emergencies, sewer repairs, move for adoption of a resolution to approve the following. $12,246.60. D.E. Trolley for emergency sanitary sewer repair at 9425 Midship Manhattan, SS 81204, and this was 1997. The next one is $28,931.53 to D.E. Trolley for emergency sanitary sewer repairs at 6204
Stone
Arabia.
Arabian.
SS 204, and that was 1997 also.
I will second it. Any comments, Kate, on the emergency repairs that we had to do?
No, the good ones coming up, good ones, Stone Arabia, they're timing it well with the road repair they
Right.
discovered, so they're gonna get that done, so the road will, cover, so the cost should be less. And these are estimates, and typically his costs come in
A little bit less, yes. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Did we get a second on that?
You second.
I'm sorry?
You second the
I'm like, I don't know. Anyway, nice day. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We pass unanimously. Thank you.
Public sanitary sewer connection, public sanitary sewer connections for Camping World. With the adoption of a resolution to allow CWI Incorporated to utilize landfill companies at an estimated fee of $15,229.80 to install, instead of the town's contractor, to make a connection to the public sanitary sewer system, subject to meeting the town's insurance requirements.
Second.
Any board comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We pass unanimously again.
Public sanitary sewer connection, 911 Beach Road. With the adoption of a resolution to allow the town's contractor, D.E. Tiroli, at an estimated cost of $7,805.95 to install a sanitary ladder connection connecting 9011 Beach Road to the public utility sanitary sewer system. Property owner has posted the estimated construction cost to the town.
Second.
Any board comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nay. Any abstentions? We pass unanimously. I move for the adoption of the following resolution that was read in its entirety, will be read in its entirety, and it's as follows. Whereas the Town of Cicero Board, herein after referred to as the Town Board, awarded the foundation contract to A.J. Montclair Incorporated for the amount of $377,777 to construct the foundations for the new highway facility. Whereas due to weather constraints, the work could not be completed during the construction winter season in 2017-2018. The work was not completed, including a portion of the caissons, all the grade beams, and backfill. In July 2018, it was decided to request a credit from A.J. Montclair for the uncompleted work. MRB worked with the contractor to evaluate the work that was completed along with materials that remained on site that can be used by the general contractor of the building. Through coordination between MRB Group and the contractor, final contract amount was determined. Whereas it was determined upon evaluation an additional credit of $13,589.71 is appropriate. The breakdown for the credit is noted on change order number 3, description. This is in addition to the previous credits received of $84,227.98. New total contract amount is $279,959.31. This credit will close out the foundation contract once the final payment application is paid. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board accept the credit of $13,589.71 to A.J. Montclair Incorporated by a credit change order number 3 to the contract. The town board further resolves that the supervisor be authorized to sign the change order and appropriate documents for this modification.
Second.
I'm not done.
Because there's A and B, so.
All right, well, this, I'm going to read it as one unless you want me to do it as...
I don't care. They look like two to me, but I don't care.
All right, well, okay, we have a second. Any board discussion on that? We'll make it 2. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We pass unanimously. Whereas the Town of Cicero Board, hereinafter referred to as the Town Board, has extended sanitary sewer along New York State Route 31 from Boyko Farm Road to 6658 New York State Route 31, which is the location of the proposed highway facility. The work is completed. Included a pump station, gravity sewer, force main, manholes, and appropriate equipment and fittings primarily to serve the highway facility will also allow residents along the route to connect. The sewer will handle domestic waste and wash water from the washing of the trucks. Whereas the work was completed by Landco companies during construction, unforeseen conditions developed, including rock at stream crossing and conflict separation distance with force main and water main. In addition, the county required special coating of the manhole structures that was unknown until provided. Until after the bids for the project were received. All backup information is attached to the change order provided. All changes total an increase in cost of $10,722.18 to the existing contract, which now totals $375,530. Fix this signature to the change order number 1, authorizing the increase in the contract by $10,722.18, which is to be added to the existing Landco company's overall contract total.
Second.
Any board comments or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We pass unanimously. Thank you. I'll move for the adoption of the following expenses for the highway garage project. $14,794.14 to MRB Group. $1,020 to Terracon. $12,199.35 to AJ Montclair. $741,992 and I think
There's an extra 9.
I'm sorry, okay, yep. And 10 cents to Building Innovation Group, $43,792.77 to Nap Electric, $33,250 to Garage Mechanical, $132,673.29 to Lawman Heating and Cooling, $4,921.65 to Rotary Lift, and $10,722.18 to Landco.
Second.
Any board comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We pass unanimously again.
Move the adoption resolution to approve the following appointments to the Parks and Recreation Department. Charles Perry's, Holly Waite, Zachary Maurer, seasonal staff as recreation attendants at a pay rate of $12.25 per hour, effective June 1st, 2019 through August 19th, 2019. Budget code A7150.1. Emily Giorino, Danielle Delphinian, Rachel Howard, summer strings instructors as recreation attendants at a pay rate of $20 per hour, effective August 5th, 2019 through August 9th, 2019. Budget code B702013. John Wojcik, tennis instructor as a recreation leader at a pay rate of $50 per hour, effective July 16th, 2019 through August 8th, 2019. Budget code B702013. Steve Carey, tennis instructor as a recreation leader at a pay rate of $40 per hour, effective July 15, 2019 through July 26, 2019, budget code B702013. Ellison Woznicka, a yoga leader or instructor as a recreation leader at a pay rate of $60 per hour, effective June 11, 2019 through August 13, 2019, budget code B702013.
Second. Any comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We pass unanimously. Mr. Conway.
Move for the adoption of a resolution to approve the advertisement of the following with Auction International for the Highway Department. Old truck 16-2004, a Sterling dump truck. And truck 22, 2002, Badger. Frontier RC 20072 rotary cutter brush hog.
Second. Any board comments or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We pass unanimously. Thank you. We'll now move to discussion. There was a meeting that Councilor Boyke conducted with Jody Rogers and Nicole Walsh to talk about the new logo. Councilors, Jody, would you like to fill us in on what your thoughts were on that?
Yes, we did have a meeting on June 5th, and I was brought up to speed because I was not truly a part of the whole process prior to that. Part of the discussion was that the parameters in regards to the logo was probably clearly not specific. So after some conversation, it was decided between Jody and Nicole and myself that we are going to go back out and revisit the whole logo itself. I had brought up the part of the contest in regards to the final details where it did say that additionally the town of Cicero, New York may alter, modify, or revise the logo as it sees necessary to achieve the goals of the town. The town of Cicero reserves the right to not select a winner if in its sole discretion no suitable entries were received. That was pretty much the reason for us going back to the drawing board. So a time frame now is that Nicole has been out of town, that we will put together a new parameters, and we're going to go back out to the community and redo looking for new logos in regards to the parameters, which we had talked about to include the actual history, the sense of the community, the environment. And that alone was a lot of conversations that folks had come forward and mentioned, is that they didn't see that. So the parameters will be published, and we will start over at the 1st of August. And the submittals will go into a email that will be held under password, and they will remain anonymous. And we are going to look to look for new folks on the committee, and myself included. So we will not determine the or even entertain until the 1st of September in that time frame, because of the summer and the fact that the kids are out of school and so on and so forth. At that time, the committee will be formed, and they will look at each one of them individually, and they will remain anonymous. And also, it has been asked that the present logo be a part of, to be included in the final decision to be made. So at that time, it'll be entertained. So right now, we are looking to have a kickoff again the first part of August.
Thank you. Mrs. Rogers, anything to add to that? No, we're good? Okay. All right, thank you. Because we won't be moving to executive session, I'm going to open up public input now. When we go into executive session, we will not be reconvening. So would anyone like to approach the, sir?
My name is Terry Bates. I live on English Road in Cicero. And I noticed, Mr. Knesge, earlier tonight, during the discussions of the Weaver Road issue, one of the primary concerns was drainage. And during that time, we spoke with a drainage committee that's been in effect for 4 or more years.
Big deal. Quite a long before me.
Yeah, and I've got a drainage issue that's probably exceeds a decade. And I only recently found out about a drainage committee. I own a property on 8804 Haymarket, and I've owned it for just about 6 years now. And the previous owner told me after I bought it that she fought with the town for several years to do something about it. And the town, according to her and the neighbors, came in and put in a French drain or a hole in the ground or something that doesn't work. The town said they didn't do it, and then they said they did it, and whatever. It doesn't fix the problem. There's been up to a foot of standing water in the back. The entire yard is flooded. I came in and spoke to Mr. Procopio about a week and a half ago about it. I've complained to the town about it probably as far back as 4 or 5 years. And 2.5 years ago, I did a written complaint about it. And it was over 1.5 years that I didn't get any response whatsoever until I sent a certified letter in, which was basically this. I can't rent the property. I'm paying taxes on the property. It's vacant. I've been taking care of the property. I mow the front of the lawn.
Yeah.
I told Mr. Procopio I can't mow the back of the lawn because the mower will get stuck in it. There's too much water. I can't even walk in it. My feet sink in it. And
Is that a year-round problem, or is that just with this second worst rainy spring we've had on record?
I was originally told for about 3 years or 4 years, we've had an unusually rainy spring.
Yeah.
But now that this has been going on for 6 years, and I'm not sure how many years of the previous owner, I'm sure it takes it over 10. It's not a more than normal spring. Once it happens for a decade, it is normal. and it's just unresolved. I know a couple of the problems, as I talked to one of the neighbors again, and I rethought this, because I've actually lived on English Road since 1982.
Yeah.
And looking back, and looking at the satellite maps, I realized that the town several years ago filled the ditches in on McKinley. And so my property, if this was McKinley, this is Haymarket, this is the back of my property, which is also the back of Larchmont.
Yeah.
There's a house that sits here on the corner of McKinley, and there's my house. There's a swale that goes back there, and this used to drain into the town road. But when the town put in the culverts, it raised the level of it, and now the pipe that goes into that is higher than the swale.
Okay.
The other thing is, this used to drain all the way down to the end of Haymarket and back into that creek, Volmer Creek or something, I believe it's called, and then also back into the pond that's underneath the power lines. But because the zoning was changed and all of those roads were put in there and all the housing was put in there, I am landlocked now. I can't drain to the right and I can't drain to the left. And I'm at my listen, to make matters worse, I told them I couldn't mow the lawn, and I'm trying. I've got my lawnmower stuck in there. I came to the tax grievance committee and talked to them about the problem because it's assessed way too high, I can't even rent it. And so I went to the mailbox yesterday and I see something from the town of Cicero, and I told them the same thing, I can't mow it. And I see something from the town of Cicero, so I thought I was getting an answer to my tax grievance question. I opened it up, and I got a notice of violation for not mowing my lawn.
Oh, great. Well, I'll tell you what, and they should violate most of us. I'm sorry about that, because with all the rain we've had, not too many mowers have been moving, including our parks. I will say this, okay? I don't know about your specific problem, and I appreciate you bringing it to me. I can promise you that you will get a response. Would you please get a drainage complaint form, and we'll get the committee and Kate back out there to look at it. Here's something I do know, okay? The only, and I've said this to my team many times, the only constant in life is change. And things change. Topographies change, water goes all over the place, and problems that may have had before, I'm sorry that you felt you were not, your problem's not addressed appropriately, but we will look at it. And if you don't, and you will, because we have good people, but if you don't, call me. Okay.
The only thing I would like to close in saying with that is that I understand that there's change, but the thing is that this problem has exceeded a decade.
Here, we get a lot of people. Go ahead.
Slide this back just a little bit. I don't want to interfere. Thank you. Thank you.
Every meeting you talk about how much money you'd like to save every year. Now, that logo is on every one of these police uniforms.
That's correct.
It's on every vehicle. You change it, what is it going to do for the town of Cicero?
We're going to cycle them out. So when the logo is changed, as a vehicle is replaced, it will have the new logo.
I know you're going to do that, what is it going to do for the town? Spending the money for it.
We're going to spend the money on patches anyway. So think of it this way. If a truck wears out, we replace the truck. Whether we put that logo on it or we put a new logo on it, we're still putting a logo on it. If a shirt wears out and we replace the shirt, whether we put that logo on it or another logo on it, it's the same cost.
I just don't understand. You keep talking about how much you're going to save in the town.
We've saved a lot of money in the town, but
Yeah,
the logo would cost
but that's not cost saving.
Yeah.
Well, that's something that somebody wants to do, either you do or somebody else.
We're not saying there's going to be cost savings, but there's not going to be.
I just think it's a ridiculous thing.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Yeah.
There's no, you gotta reach it. Move up this chair. Wait a minute, wait, hold on.
I just have two issues. One, I want to indicate on our building project, NIMO, who never gives you any notice, showed up today. We put in the transformer, ran the wire to the pole. We now just have to wait for the high wire guys to come and hook the wires to the power pole.
Good.
Then we will have electric on site. I mentioned last time we met, we had gas on site. Mr. Bloss has been charged with checking all the regulators on all the equipment. He will be doing that next day or two to make sure that they're all up to what they need to be in order to take the poundage that we'll be getting from National Grid. So that's at least where we're going.
Good.
The only question I've got, gang, is, because I'm a numbers guy, I'm wondering about these sewer connections, and I must not understand what it does, because when I see a house number and $12,000 and a house number and almost $29,000 for a sewer repair, I gotta be missing something, because there's, down below, we see where Tiroli's gonna do a connection on 9011 Beach Road for $7,800. So obviously, part of it must be because it's an emergency. But can I have any kind of explanation of why we spent $20,000 for one and 12 for another? I mean,
Kate?
I can address that a little
The
bit.
engineer has to answer the question.
So the one, the least expensive one on Beach Road, that's because there happens to be a manhole located right outside the right-of-way line, so he can pour right into the manhole. It's a lot, he doesn't have to go as deep and as long. The one on Stone Arabia, that lateral goes all the way across the street, so it's about 60 feet longer. So it's digging up the depth, it's about an 8-foot or 9-foot excavation, 60 feet across the road.
But where was the break? Was the break in?
The break, they're actually, so the family that lives there, they had a sewer backup over the winter. And they paid several thousands of dollars to someone and they fix their stuff. But that person noticed that, hey, you have a dip in your line further down your line. So they said, if you ever, you need to just make sure you flush everything out all the time. If ever they redo these roads, you should get this repaired. So this gentleman called the county to TV the line. He TV'd it and said, yes, you do have a dip. If you guys are fixing the road, now's the time to replace this lateral because it's going to need to be replaced.
So that really didn't happen because of the problem that the owner had. I mean, it's something that we did to our sewer system. I mean,
it was probably during installation that the homeowner said that there was something done with his driveway that he thinks, and I don't know exactly what happened, he thinks someone knocked something and that the problem started then. But the problem is in the public right of way.
Okay, in the public right of way, that gives me a little more information than we need, because I know that once the public right of way, I don't own the rest of that, and it's not my responsibility. And when I see, so this comes out of our special district money to pay for this? How do we pay for this?
We have it's not a special district, but we have a sewer repair emergency
Fund.
fund that's
in our regular budget?
Yes,
The regular budget, yeah.
yes.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, sir.
Okay, been to quite a few meetings, and something doesn't seem right here. For example, usually the planning board can make a discussion, but before the people even had a chance to come to the public hearing, that you advertised and that was from, you guys already made up your mind.
I don't think so. I'll
You
stop.
got it right on your thing where you read that motion.
Oh, if you read it, it says, I think.
Make a motion or?
Yeah, no, accept or reject.
Yeah, it says accept or reject.
It says accept or reject. So if we choose to reject it, then we can say,
Well, just
insert the word
explain,
reject.
but when they got ready to speak, your minds were all made up,
I don't know, I can't speak for everyone else.
pretty much.
Not mine. I have
Not
a
mine.
pile of paperwork right here.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay,
Okay, got another deed.
yes, sir.
Before you got elected, you was at a meeting at the firehouse,
Mhm.
and you was gonna straighten out this tax thing. The difference between the protection and the fire districts.
Yeah. I wanted,
It's been 4 years and you ain't done nothing yet.
well, that's not true. So,
It was before you
no,
got
no, no.
elected because.
No, I understand, but you should understand, as a member of the longtime member of the firehouse, that there is a protection district and there's also a fire district.
Correct.
The Cicero Firehouse falls into a fire district, right?
Correct.
And the residents who live within that district only,
Down.
well, okay, then they voted it down. They alone, not this town board, have the power to either amend, accept, or remove it.
I
But
understand
there have been many discussions.
Why did they vote it down?
I can't answer why they voted
I
it down.
can. I talked to a lot of them. and I would have voted it down too if I was one. Why should this guy on this side of the street pay almost twice as much as the guy on the other side of the street?
It's been an issue, and I can tell you that your own fire department members, the chiefs, I meet with the chiefs and all the chiefs of this town once a month, and I met with them this past Saturday, and I can tell you if you talk to your Chikowski, I think, right?
They don't know why it's not going. Nothing's happened on it.
Well,
I just asked them, what have they done on it? No. The answer's
it's not up to this town board or the town supervisor to dictate to the district. It's up to the fire department membership to present that to the people who live within the district and make the business case to them, but we cannot do that. We don't do that.
Well, I understand that, but that's the reason they voted that down was because they wanted to get that straightened out.
Yeah, I know that there's been a lot of.
I'm
sorry.
Promised that you was going to do it.
Well, I didn't promise I was going to do it. I promised that I would address
I
it.
got witnesses that heard.
Okay, all right, well.
Because you said, when I get elected, I'm going to straighten it out.
I said I am going to work with the fire departments to come up with a plan that's good for the town, and I have done just that.
I should get a hearing aid. I heard it different.
Okay, well, then sometimes I hear things different. Yes, ma'am.
You're beating a dead horse.
Okay.
Following up with that gentleman and the people at Weaver Road on the drainage control, the drainage complaint form?
Yes.
Is there a standard response time on that drainage form?
Steve, I'll have you, I know that the drainage committee meets once every 2 weeks, right?
This year we have since we began, beginning of May. So we're still addressing complaints from previous years, and we've got many this year. We try to get back to everybody when we have an answer. The standard time, within a month you should hear something, you know, that we at least have been out there. We're talking about, we may not have an answer in that period of time, but you should get some response. And so, do you have
Okay, my neighbors, I live on Hetty Lane, and we filed complaint forms in November of last year. The town had come through last year and took a bulldozer and cleared out what was a drainage swale. I didn't have any information or any pre-warning. I just got up one morning and there's a bulldozer in my backyard. And they cleared it out and stopped right at my property. Now, there is a pond that goes around in the back that it drains into, but there's a swale. They stopped right at my property. Well, ever since that time, the water has backed up. The water is coming down through and stopping in my yard. And I'm gonna get the same complaint from my neighbors, I can't cut my grass. I've been back there, I'm in duck shoes right now.
Yeah.
So we complained in November because we were underwater. And I believe it was Mr. Hooper at the time, he did come over. It was a blizzard that day when we were out there in the snow,
Yeah.
and he couldn't tell which side of the street had actually complained.
Okay, so we need a follow-up. Mr. Hooper left us, and I would
Yeah.
ask Mr. Procopio to please follow up with this lady, and...
We sent another form out last week.
Oh, okay, good, good, and we'll follow up.
We're just waiting.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else before we close? Mr. Riley, there's two.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. With respect to the drainage complaint issue, is the drainage complaint form available online?
Yes.
It is. It is? Because I searched for it and I couldn't find it, but maybe it's just I'm just the one that couldn't find it on there.
Yeah, it's very simple.
Because I have a number of people that I spoke to in addition to Mr. Bass and Ms. Evanoff, specifically on Larchmont Road, that have that similar issue of the drainage concern. And it's similar to what Mr. Bass was discussing earlier this evening, and something that's been going on for a number of years. They want somebody to look at it. I asked them if they could find it online. I said I couldn't find it online, but if it's on there,
I'll be happy to send you a link. It's very easy. If you go to the first page,
It's on there.
CiceroNewYork.net, yep, it's right there. Go to forms, click
I
on
made a
forms.
mistake of using the search function. That's just my fault.
Yeah.
Number two, so in an ongoing effort to find grant money for the town of Cicero, I was looking at the New York State website that advertises this sort of things, and I found something I think you'll like, Mr. Supervisor, the Local Government Efficiency Grant. It talks about two or more local entities, such as a county or a town, working together to pay contractors for works on projects, specifically 19 LGE-18. It's due in a week if we were to submit something. Something that popped in my mind was I know we had the sewage issue over by Fast Track that involved both county sewage issue, and we also had to pay our end of it.
Right.
I thought that would have been a perfect sort of way for us to save money as a town. So I just want to bring that to the board's attention. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Would you do me a favor?
Yeah?
Mr. Mr. Riley, would you, because anytime there's free money, I'm all ears, right?
All right.
I'm not,
Repeat that.
19-LGD-18, I can give you the link to it if you want.
that's great.
Yeah. And then the final one, in terms of the logo contest, Mrs. Boyke, I know a lot of residents are obviously concerned, I'm concerned about the costs associated with this. Are there any measures that you're taking or that the town board is taking to ensure that we don't have lots of costs from rebranding?
That was discussed in our meeting,
Okay.
and as the supervisor had indicated, that it would not be, if we do change the logo, it would not be a mass change other than probably our police department, that would be on an as-need basis.
Right.
Or
So as they wear out, we
or
put the
replacement. And
So
that
we're
that
not
was
rebranding
discussed.
everything in the town of Cicero?
Not as
No, it would not
Okay.
be, it would not be a mass.
There'd be no cost, but there would be no savings either. I mean, it would be a one.
It's just, it would be.
I just want to know if the powers that be are taking costs into consideration. It sounds like you
Yeah,
are.
no,
doing
that,
Always-
that was.
always looking at cost.
That was
Yeah.
my first question.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mrs. Gardner.
Yes, Mr. President.
I have been coming to these meetings on and off since 2007, and I have repeatedly heard about drainage problems. Now, I do not want to minimize some of these people's drainage problems, the two stories I heard tonight, but I wonder how many of them are landscaping problems. And I tell you that because we moved into our house in 1983, and we had a little, you could even see the top of the grass because of all the rain in the spring. And it wasn't because it was a rainy spring, it was a normal spring. So after 2 or 3 years of getting tired of that, we got somebody in there, landscaping, and they did something, and now we don't have the water problem anymore. So I'm wondering if some of these problems, not these people's, it sounds like, might just be a landscaping problem. I wonder if that's ever addressed. Okay. The other thing I want to mention is, does the town have a records retention policy?
I'd have to talk to Casey.
Oh, yes.
Tracy would have the details, but yes, we do.
Okay, because from what I understand, there's at least a 90-day records retention, and email is included in that.
I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying that because I have been told for years, oh, we don't have those emails because we deleted them. And I'm still hearing that. So I would like to, I would like to have the records retention addressed especially for emails.
We'll look into it.
The other thing I'm concerned about is, as you know, medical marijuana is legal in New York State, but it's not legal under federal law. So my concern is, does the town have any type of policy if they do a random test and they find, I'm going to take the most implausible person, that you use medical marijuana? What do you
I
do?
feel like I can use it sometimes after attending these meetings.
You should try it before. What would you do? Would you follow state law or federal law? Because of the drug, what is it, Drug Workplace Act of 1980.
Whatever law is applicable, that whatever council told us that we should follow is what we would do, so I can't answer that question.
Could you ask council now?
I suppose I could. We have no specific case in front of us.
Mr. Jermaine?
Mr. Jermaine, you're smiling, go ahead.
If the state law says it's not legal, then we have to follow the state.
No, the state law says medical marijuana is legal. Federal law says it's not. So do you follow that in the workplace law of 1988 and say to the person, fine, go off and do your job? Or do you follow the federal law, you'd have to fire them to do something. In the state law, you let them go off and do their job unless they're driving or using heavy equipment.
Are you talking about employee issues, or are you talking about criminals?
I'm talking about employee issues. Somebody in the town is using medical marijuana for a good reason, and now they're random tests and it comes up they're using marijuana. Do you follow federal law or state law?
We follow state law.
I'm glad to hear that. I'd like to see that in writing. I'd like to see a written policy on that to protect those people that are using it. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Gardner, I would like, it's me, Judy.
Yes, Mrs. Boyd.
Sorry, it's coming from above. Part of the issue when you talk about the landscaping which I do recall from the past as well, is that we have a situation with residents filling in the swale and putting their buildings, sheds, whatever, on them as well, blocking any of the drainage, and that obviously is a major thing. So anyone who has drainage problems probably should also bring that to the attention of the town, because it is, if it's a easement, it doesn't belong to them.
I know, and so if somebody has built it in the last 5 years and you discover it, you're gonna make them take it down?
If you do the repair, yes. If you come in, you're blocking the drainage. It's my understanding that it can be addressed.
Okay, thank you very much.
It actually happened when I was on the planning board. We had O'Meara Drive, if you're familiar, going into Brewerton on the left. A developer bought that property. The homeowners were told when they bought their homes it was going to be forever. It was on the south side of O'Meara. It was going to be forever wild. Well, it wasn't true. There was nothing in writing. Contractor bought it. There used to be a swale. The swale went across everybody's yard that's on the south side, and it was 11 houses. Mysteriously, over an 18-year period, the swale disappeared. Because everybody had an opportunity to gain an extra 40 or 50 feet on their backyard, and there was going to be forever wild behind them. Who would ever know? And that mystery, just the swale disappeared. Now, when the contractor decides to develop, he's going to fill right to his line, because there's supposed to be a swale just beyond it. He's not responsible for that drainage. So what do we tell the contractor? And what do we tell the homeowners? It might have been the second or third or fourth owner since it happened. It happens a lot.
But even if it's a second or third or fourth homeowner, if it is illegal, if it was illegal when it was built, it should be taken down. If it was legal when it was, because I know the law changed, I think in 1985 or 86, something like that. And I know that because we have a shed that abuts the easement.
The single biggest problem we've got in the system, the entire town is built. You know where the signs are, it's built on a swamp.
It's a swamp, I know. Thank you very much.
Ms. Gardner, I would actually have to add an asterisk to Mr. Germain's answer on the medical marijuana.
Okay.
Necessarily, we would have to follow federal law with respect to the police department. And that is because, as anyone in here who's ever bought a gun knows, you fill out a 4473. One of the questions they ask you is, are you an unlawful user of, or are you addicted to, marijuana or other controlled substances? Because marijuana is a Schedule I controlled substance under federal law, and the federal government does not recognize medical uses, anyone who uses medical marijuana is an unlawful user under federal law of marijuana, and therefore are prohibited by federal law from possessing firearms or ammunition. And since firearms and ammunition are an essential part of the function and job of a police officer, possessing them is, a police officer who was a medical marijuana user would be prohibited under federal law from discharging their duties as a police officer. So, with respect to the town constables or the town police officers, we would have to follow federal law on that.
Are they randomly tested?
Mr. Meyer, or sorry, Sergeant Meyer? No.
Should everybody in the town be tested?
Our drivers, our highway department, and, no?
It's a contract issue. CSEA is.
Just a highway department.
Teamsters are.
Yeah, that's right. Teamsters are not, right? But the highway people are.
That's a very, very bad policy, don't you think?
I think it's a bad policy, but there's no input on it. I'll tell you something that's even worse, is we cannot require a DOT physical of any one of our drivers, by law, by New York State law. So every commercial driver who drives for a public company, okay, is required by New York State DOT to put their drivers through a DOT physical. They'll check for drug use, they'll check to make sure the person doesn't have diabetes or something that could affect their judgment. They color blindness, that type of thing. We cannot, as public employees, we cannot ask our drivers to submit to that. Scary. Scary.
Okay. Maybe we should address that with our legislature.
There you go.
Thank you very much, and I will bring it up to Mrs. Stewart.
Okay, anyone else before we close? We're going to go into executive session. Yes, sir.
There seems to be confusion, and it causes friction in our communities, and I'd like to try to maybe have you guys get with a dog person and find out what we want to enforce and how we want to enforce this article on dog control.
Yeah.
It says it shall be unlawful for any owner of a dog in the town of Cicero to permit or allow such a dog to commit a nuisance by defecating or urinating upon public property or the property of someone other than the owner or harborer of the dog. In other words, let your dog pee and poop in your own yard, not other people's places.
Right.
But of course, it's a common practice for people who carry the bags around and pick it back up. My concern is, I have several grandchildren, and we happen to live on a place on the street where there's a lot of dog walkers. And my question would be to those people who want to pick it up, put it in bags, oh, I picked it up. Would you want your grandchild to immediately go over and sit in that spot? Would you want to put your hand down there with somebody else's dog went by? We all know what's left behind, the bacteria, the bile. So as I interpret this, I'm in agreement with this. I think if you have a dog, you should make sure it happens. There's plenty of people walking by that keep it on a tight leash and it doesn't wander and do whatever, but there's others that don't. And the problem is when you say something to them, and even if you say it nicely, they get defensive. And now you have something that we shouldn't have to go on. Now, my concern coming to you guys is because my last conversation with a dog control officer who had, at that time last year, recently taken over, I contacted him about this and he said, well, are they picking it up? The comment just says they shouldn't have to pick it up. This thing says they shouldn't be doing it in the first place. And when I talked to Tracy, that was, and it's still what most people think is, are they picking it up? Well, they pick up what they can see, but we all know what's there. And if you have a lot of dogs that happen to walk past your house, you got a lot of that stuff in the grass or wherever. So I'm asking if you guys would get with the dog control officer, how we want to interpret this in our town, because he was confused last time I talked to him. And if you would ask him to get back with me. My name's Sam Anderson. My number is 315-288-4345. I'd like to try to...
I think you put your number on the email to me, didn't you, Mr. Anderson?
I may have.
Would you just fire it off to me again with your number
Yeah.
on it, and I'll follow up. I don't have an answer for you.
I know.
I can't wave a magic wand. Everybody, we own dogs. You know, my wife, you'd love her in your neighborhood. She will not allow her dog to walk in anybody's neighborhood or anybody's yard, and she's very tight about that.
No, my kids have
But,
dogs. I
yeah.
have dogs. I like them.
Yeah.
It's the people who own them think it's just okay to
Right.
do that, and it's like, it's disgusting.
Yeah, I
When
agree.
you figure that one out, let's work on the park system.
Yeah, right.
That's all they're doing in the park system, and we posted it, and if I'm not mistaken, Sergeant Meyer, that unless you see them doing it, there's no way to, you know.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an answer to it, but we'll look at it.
Okay.
We had a brief discussion with you.
And once again, thank you for your patience and professional
Thank you.
diligence and what you guys do in your departments. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, thanks. And I can tell you, the people here work hard for you. Okay, that being it, I'm going to make a motion that we go into executive session related to the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property, the proposed acquisition, sale, or exchange of securities. Counselor, if you will join us, we will not be reconvening, so have a great evening, folks.